This introverted loser spends his entire day playing games and is secretly in love with his cute friend. But just when he was about to say, "I love you," to her, his best friend betrays him and steals the girl for himself. However, the story takes a twist when the most popular girl in the world proposes to him exactly at the moment when his friend and his love betray him and reveals that he has powers of ancient dragon god. In the beginning of the story, we see a boy named Mingfei, who is absolutely useless in real life. He spends his days lying around in his messy room, considering himself a top player just because he plays his favorite games all day long. He gets so happy over his small wins as if he has conquered the world. While battling online with his gaming friend, he smashed the keyboard like he was fighting a war, putting in all his strength as if he wanted his name written in history. He won the game, but then his friend said goodbye and logged off, leaving Mingfei sitting there all alone, with no one left to play with. Feeling lost, he started looking at the fake profile he had created. Just when he was about to drool all over his filthy keyboard, a challenge popped up from a top player named Nono. Without thinking twice, Mingfei accepted the challenge and their battle began. But as soon as the game started, Mingfei was shocked by Nono's incredible skills. It was way harder than he had imagined. Mingfei then worked his wrist and mouse moves like magic, in a way never seen before. He even stood up from his chair, fighting like he was in a real battle. But right then, Nono sent him a message predicting Mingfei's next move, and with that, Mingfei lost the match. He sat frozen like a statue after losing. Afterward, he sat there wondering, who was this player? How could he defeat me so easily? He tried to dig up more information about the profile, but it was completely empty. Feeling defeated, he closed the game and stopped playing. The scene changes. We see the person who defeated Mingfei was actually a girl named Chen Madong. She was a dragon slayer studying at Cassell College, but in the gaming world, people knew her as Nono. Nono was hanging out in the city with her friends when they learned that Cassell College's principal was interested in Mingfei, believing he had the potential to become an ace student. However, Madong couldn't understand what was so special about Mingfei. That's why she had challenged him in the game, to see what all the hype was about. She was furious that the principal even gave Mingfei a scholarship to Cassell College, while she thought someone as useless as him didn't deserve to study there, especially after she had beaten him one-on-one. Her friends were also confused and asked Nono to find out more about Mingfei. So, Nono logged into Eva, Cassell College's AI system. Eva greeted her, and Nono began asking about Mingfei's life, hobbies, and personal interests. She found out that Mingfei had no friends at school, no real presence in life, and that he only loved playing games. She also discovered that Mingfei's parents had abandoned him when he was a child, and now he lived with his uncle and aunt, who constantly belittled him. And yes, he had a nasty cousin named Mingze. He loves getting revenge on his cousin Mingze by pretending to be an online girl, fooling him, and even dating him in the game, just to satisfy his fire for revenge. But in real life, things are rough. His uncle and aunt keep yelling at him to think about earning a living, warning him that no college would ever accept him. Basically, he was turning into a useless, jobless guy with no future. Meanwhile, Nono also finds out that Mingfei has a crush on a girl from school named Chen Wenwen. But Nono's real question was, what are this guy's dreams? And where does he see himself in the future? As soon as she dug into Mingfei's dreams, Eva told her that our guy's dream was simply to work at a newsstand, just enough to earn money to update his games and stay online. Could there be any greater sign of hopelessness than that? Hearing this, Nono was so shocked that her friend even lost control of the car for a second. Everyone's mind had just one question. Why does the principal want this hopeless guy at the college? He's just a lazy nobody. Now, Mingfei, lost in his own thoughts, steps out to buy some things for the house. On the way, he meets the postman and asks if there are any letters for him. The postman hands him a few letters and a package containing a strange device. The first letter says that he has been rejected by an international university. The second letter says that he has been accepted into Cassell College, and this was specially arranged by Professor Guderian, who sent him the letter. Mingfei feels like he's dreaming. He tries to wake himself up, but everything turns out to be real. He runs home, excited, and shares the good news with his family. But guess what? His uncle and aunt think that Mingfei has faked the letter. His aunt loses her temper and scolds him, calling it one of his tricks. His cousin Mingze mocks him too, saying, "How can a loser like you get accepted into that college? Only people who combine magic and humanities study there." Mingze dramatically explains that the greatest warrior there is a guy named Chu Zihong, a human hybrid who's among the strongest students at Cassell College. He speaks about Chu Zihong as if he's reciting some holy scripture, then proudly claims that people like Mingfei are nothing compared to Chu Zihong. Meanwhile, Mingfei drifts into a daydream. In that dream, a helicopter lands outside their apartment, and Chu Zihong himself steps out, bows before Mingfei, and calls him Master, saying, "We've been waiting for you for so long, Master." But soon Mingfei snaps back to reality. He starts thinking maybe his family is right. Maybe this is all just some joke. Feeling disheartened, he starts to leave quietly. Just then, the device that came with the letter suddenly starts ringing. His aunt tells him that a person from Cassell College wants to interview him, specifically regarding his admission. Now everyone's face turns pale with shock. Mingfei contacts his best friend online. Though everyone else thinks he's being foolish, his friend was super excited and even gives him some tips on how to present himself in the interview. The next day, Mingfei goes to the building in the main city for the interview. As soon as he enters, he's stunned to see some of his old school classmates there, including his longtime crush, Chen Wenwen. Everyone was waiting in line for their interviews. Mingfei gathers some courage and asks Wenwen how she ended up there. He even tries to boost her confidence by saying, "Don't worry, you're an amazing speaker and always a top student in class." Wenwen smiles and says thank you. One by one, people are called for their interviews. Finally, it's Mingfei's turn. Mingfei had memorized all possible questions and answers the night before to avoid messing up. But when the examiner looks at him and asks the very first question, it was, "Do you believe in aliens?" Mingfei's mind was completely blown. He had expected them to ask questions like where he grew up or his life story, but these people were playing a whole different game. Just then, another interviewer, who was typing all the responses, spoke up and said, "We don't care about your life story. Just answer these questions properly. It's very important." Mingfei was a bit confused but still answered, "Yes, I believe in aliens. Every night I look at the stars in the sky and think, the universe is so vast, there must be life somewhere out there, somewhere in this galaxy on another planet." After hearing such bizarre questions, Mingfei apologized and said, "I think I signed up for the wrong college," and walked out of the building. As Mingfei exits the building, a man enters, none other than Professor Guderian. He starts yelling at the two interviewers, "You idiots should have stopped Mingfei. You should have convinced him. Call him right now and bring him back." The interviewers couldn't understand why the professor was so furious. What was so special about this Mingfei? Meanwhile, on his way home, Mingfei meets Wenwen. She asks him if he would go with her to the graduation party. Mingfei immediately agrees and then starts dreaming about marrying Wenwen, settling somewhere in the city, and living a happy life. By now, he was convinced that he had completely ruined his chance of getting into Cassell College. But as soon as he reaches home, his aunt tells him that a man named Guderian had called and said that Mingfei had passed the interview and that he can join Cassell College. The next day, Mingfei returns to that building along with his family, his uncle, aunt, and cousin, to meet Professor Guderian. They needed to discuss Mingfei's education. And guess what his aunt's first question was? About money. As soon as she sat down, she directly asked, "Where will the money come from? Where will Mingfei stay?" The professor explained that Mingfei would be given $36,000 every year, transferred straight into his bank account as a scholarship, and he would live at the academy itself. Hearing such a huge amount, Mingfei's aunt almost fainted. She immediately started pleading with Mingfei to accept the offer and kept telling the professor, yes, he will definitely go. But the real shock came when the professor revealed why they wanted Mingfei so badly. It was because a rare 100-year-old talent was hidden inside Mingfei's soul. His uncle and aunt were completely confused. Then the professor pulled out a letter written by Mingfei's parents, and it revealed that his mother and father were once honored students of Cassell Academy. The professor handed the letter over to Mingfei. This was a complete shock for Mingfei. All his life, he had believed that his parents had abandoned him without any reason. But the truth was that they had left him behind because they were studying at Cassell Academy. Mingfei makes an excuse, leaves the meeting room, and reads the letter alone in a bathroom stall. Tears start rolling down his cheeks. In the letter, his mother explained everything, that they had to leave him that night, but they always loved him, and that he was the most important part of their lives. Because of their bloodline, they had to go to Cassell Academy. She wrote that once Mingfei grew up, she wanted the principal to give him a scholarship and ensure he had a happy life. Mingfei was still crying when suddenly Nono showed up, and guess what? Mingfei had accidentally entered the girls' bathroom. Nono pulled him out and brought him back to the meeting. Once back, the professor asked Mingfei whether he wanted to join the academy. Mingfei replied that he needed a little more time. But suddenly, Nono dropped a bomb. She said, the real reason for Mingfei's hesitation is because he's in love with a girl and doesn't want to leave her behind. Mingfei was completely shocked. He thought that maybe Nono knew about Chen Wenwen, but Nono said she had just made a random guess. However, she accidentally gave herself away when she mentioned something she had said to Mingfei during their in-game rivalry. Mingfei immediately realized that Madong was actually Nono, the same girl who had defeated him in the game. Now Mingfei was sitting on the rooftop, thinking about how Nono knew so much about his private matters. He took out his phone and started composing a message for Chen Wenwen, trying to confess his feelings. But just as he was about to do that, Nono suddenly appeared behind him, startling him so much that he jumped. Nono explained that Eva, the artificial intelligence, could easily track his location, and that she had come under Professor Guderian's orders to persuade him once more to join the academy. But Mingfei hesitated again and this time clearly said that he loved Chen Wenwen and wouldn't make any decisions until he confessed his feelings to her. Nono then bluntly told Mingfei that Chen Wenwen didn't like him and that he was throwing away the biggest opportunity of his life for a girl who didn't even love him back. But Mingfei still believed he had a chance, because Wenwen had invited him to the graduation party. Nono tried her best to make him realize the huge mistake he was making. She warned him that if he gave up this chance now, it would affect his life forever. The next day, Mingfei went shopping with Wenwen to get stuff for the graduation party. But once again, Nono appeared and tried to convince him to give up on Wenwen. Nono told him that the professors were leaving tonight, so he needed to make a decision immediately. But Mingfei's mind was made up. He was going to confess to Wenwen at the graduation party. He even started practicing his confession in front of the mirror. Since he had no money to buy flowers, he picked flowers from the ground to give to her. Just as the party was about to start, his friend Zhao Minglu showed up with a suit for him. After putting on the suit, Mingfei headed toward the stage, flowers in hand, completely ready to confess to Wenwen. But then, Zhao Minglu appeared on stage, holding a bouquet, and confessed his love to Chen Wenwen. And the biggest blow? Wenwen confessed her love for Zhao Minglu too right there. They started dating on the spot. Mingfei just stood there, completely silent, watching his best friend and his crush betray him. His heart was shattered. But right then, Nono appeared again, and this time, she looked so stunning that the entire class was left speechless. With absolute grace, she walked down the stairs. Nono reached Mingfei, signaled to the girls who had come with her, and together they completely changed Mingfei's outfit. Then Nono took Mingfei's hand in hers, turned to Wenwen and Minglu, and said that Mingfei had more important things to do than waste time with them. Hearing this, Minglu got angry. Nono declared that this was the last time they would see the old Mingfei. Then she took Mingfei and left the building. As they walked out, Nono told Mingfei that if he wanted, he could turn around and take one last look at Wenwen. But Mingfei, acting like a total alpha Chad, didn't even look back. He kept walking forward. The two of them then drove for a long time. They both stop at a place to refill the tank, and there Nono tells Mingfei that she cannot disappoint the principal and the professor. She must make sure Mingfei joins Cassell Academy. But Mingfei thanks her for not giving up and for explaining everything to him again and again, saying that now he was ready to reconsider his decision and finally decided to join Cassell College. As soon as Mingfei informs Nono about his decision, Nono immediately informs Eva, who greets Mingfei for the first time, and tells him all his current statistics, grants him the title of S-Rank, and gives him his student ID code and all the information about the college. And then Nono places a crown on him and declares him the king of the college, even though he hasn't really achieved anything yet, leaving Mingfei completely stunned. Nono explains that many people before him have worn the crown too, like his parents, but one more thing, people are willing to kill and die for this crown. Still, Nono bows before Mingfei and says she will become his personal subordinate and will pass on all the knowledge she learned through years of study at the college, and Mingfei happily accepts her as his friend. Eva saves all of Mingfei's data into the system so it can be used anytime, and this news quickly spreads among all the students of the college. A few days later, Mingfei was at the airport and asks an officer about the CC line that would take him to the college, but the officer says there's no such line and dismisses Mingfei, thinking he's a beggar. Looking at the only $20 he had left, Mingfei reassures himself that he's not a beggar, but when he looks around he sees several others looking just as poor and lost as him. The officer suggests he go to the Chinese embassy to arrange food and shelter, and hearing this, Mingfei starts feeling like an NPC. Starving, he goes to get a burger but is refused service because they don't serve beggars, and at that moment, he meets a silver-haired boy named Fingal, a guy so dazzling that girls would swoon just looking at him, but in reality, he's completely broke too. Fingal asks Mingfei for some money to buy soda, then notices the Cassell College card in Mingfei's hand and asks if he's a student there too. Fingal then shows his own card and claims he's Mingfei's senior, but hilariously, Fingal snatches all of Mingfei's money just for fun. That night, they sit together and Fingal reveals that he's been at the college for 8 years, even though most students graduate within 4 or 5 years, but Fingal is so awesome that he repeated a single grade 4 times. Both of them then sit at the station, waiting for the CC line that would take them to the college. Fingal explains that the college is hidden inside a valley and the easiest way to reach it is through the CC line, unless you have a private jet and permission from the headmaster. After waiting till midnight, both of them fall asleep, and Mingfei had a strange dream where he finds himself in a battlefield. People are running in lines, screams and chaos everywhere, and then he suddenly wakes up and sees a large moon shining outside the station window, and a small boy sitting nearby on the ground, staring at him. The boy looks at Mingfei as if he knows him and calls him brother, but then Mingfei wakes up again, realizing it was a dream within a dream, a complete inception moment. Just as Mingfei wakes awake from the dream, Fingal also wakes up and says that the CC line has arrived, and at that moment, they see a man approaching them holding a bell in his hand. The man announces that the CC 1000 express train has arrived and all students should get ready with their luggage and tickets to board the train. Fingal walks towards him, and the man, seeing him, says he's surprised to see his failure of a face here. Making a cool move, Fingal says that he's been demoted again and has broken the record for continuous demotions, causing his grade to fall all the way to F. Now Mingfei also goes to that conductor and informs him that he's a new student named Mingfei, and the moment the conductor hears his name, he panics and asks if he's really a new S-grade student, also questioning why the professor didn't come to pick him up in a private plane. Hearing all this, even Fingal gets scared and asks if it's really true, and now Mingfei too starts panicking just to not feel alone. As soon as he checks in, the whole airport lights up and an underground passageway opens up, and then the CC 1000 express train arrives, and Professor Guderian pops out of it. All the students board the train, wear their uniforms, and the professor asks Mingfei to sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement which is a necessary procedure for all students because special studies here isn't available anywhere else in the world. The professor explains to Mingfei that they study about dragons here and asks him what he knows about dragons. Mingfei says that dragons are just legendary creatures that are part of various myths and stories, but the professor says that dragons are real and that there has been a long-standing war between humans and dragons, something ordinary people don't know about. And Cassell College's mission is to learn how to slay dragons and create heroes who can protect humanity. Hearing this, Mingfei jokes that maybe the professor doesn't need a dragon slayer but a mental doctor, but suddenly Mingfei faints and starts dreaming. In the dream, the same small boy appears again and tells him that dragons are real. The boy shows him a vision where a real dragon is sitting atop a snow-covered mountain peak and explains that many years ago, a human killed the Dragon King on his throne and became the first human emperor, and when the dragon died, there was a massive celebration, and because of that human hero, civilization was able to advance so far. Saying this, the boy disappears and Mingfei wakes up. Now Mingfei thinks that maybe the professor isn't crazy after all. The professor then calls in one of his associates, who brings 2 boxes. The man says that in his 40-year career, he has only seen 2 S-grade students, and unfortunately, the first one was sent to heaven. Then he opens the first box, which contains a dragon scale, and asks Mingfei to try shooting it. Mingfei says he has some experience with guns because of military training, so he picks up the gun, aims, and fires, but the bullet just bounces back without leaving a scratch. The scale was so strong that the bullet has no effect at all. Seeing the strength of the dragon scale, Mingfei gets a little confused but says maybe it's some kind of advanced technology. He then moves towards the second box, and as he opens it, he sees a sleeping baby dragon inside a capsule. The professor starts telling him the story of the dragon, but Mingfei laughs and says it looks like some action figure and tells them to grow up, but when he looks at the dragon more closely, it suddenly wakes up and tries to break out of the capsule. However, because of the new nanotech casing, the dragon quickly falls back asleep without trying to escape again. The professor says that maybe the dragon reacted that way because of Mingfei's strong genetics. After that, everyone reaches the college, and Mingfei walks inside with the professor. On the way, Mingfei asks the professor why there are no other students around. The professor also starts wondering. Suddenly, air sirens start blaring, and the professor realizes that something very bad is about to happen. He grabs Mingfei's hand and quickly runs to hide behind a pillar. Suddenly, a large group of young people dressed in red and black suits appear from all directions. Both groups start firing at each other, and the entire area turns into a war zone. The professor also gets hit by a bullet and quickly passes out. The chaos continues until only a woman and the two group leaders are left standing. Now, the two leaders come face to face. One is Caesar, the leader of the student union, and the other is Jay Hack, the president of the Lionheart Society. They fight like overpowered anime protagonists, while poor Mingfei feels like just an NPC in front of them. As the two leaders are busy trying to kill each other, Mingfei gets caught between two girls. The girl from the red team, Nano, points her gun at Mingfei and tells him to duck. She then shoots the girl standing behind him but gets hit herself as well. It seems like the black team has won, but suddenly, Mingfei shifts into OP mode. He lets his body be taken over by the little boy who used to appear in his dreams. Now, like AS rank hero, he shoots down both group leaders too. Afterward, Mingfei sits down by a pillar and slowly regains control over his body. Just then, a large group of nurses arrive. As the professor wakes up, he explains that they were using anesthetic paint bullets, which just mark and put targets to sleep without causing harm. Today was a free day at college, and all the students had organized an expensive paintball shooting game to see who was better. While the professor is explaining this, another bullet explodes on his chest, and he passes out again. The bald man turns out to be Professor Man, who is in charge of the college's finance and discipline. He angrily calls the principal and complains that the students have turned the college into a mess. But the principal laughs and says that it's the students' right, and the college will cover the repair costs, even if they exceed 200 million. The principal regrets not being able to participate in the game this year and promises to play next time. Hearing the situation with the student body, he asks about Mingfei and instructs that he should join his class, then hangs up. After the call, Professor Man tells Mingfei that if he wants to survive, he should quickly head to his dorm because all the students are now glaring at him. Later, Mingfei reaches his dorm and finds that it's quite a large room meant for two people, and his roommate is none other than Fingal himself. Fingal immediately offers to show him around the college on his first day. He shows him various buildings and explains that no one is allowed to use spirit language on the college grounds, thanks to Professor Man's father. He lives in the watchtower and casts a barrier around the entire college with his power. Fingal then takes Mingfei to a classroom where people can practice spirit language. He explains that to use this power, the dragon language must resonate with a dragon bloodline, otherwise, you'll be sent straight back. While walking around, they see several students practicing spirit language. One student suddenly fails to control his water spirit, but another student quickly freezes it and saves everyone. Meanwhile, somewhere on an airship, the principal was drinking with his friend Mason. The principal asks Mason about the students from the time when the last Dragon King was still alive. He says that this time, he doesn't want to produce soldiers, he wants to create people who can lead humanity into a new peaceful era, free from the threat of dragons. For this, he himself is willing to personally train Mingfei. After that, he asks Mason about a secret mission that they are about to start. Their airship steadily moved toward its destination. Meanwhile, back at the college, Professor Guderian came to fetch Mingfei for his exams. But before that, he showed Mingfei a curious music box, one that held the recorded roar of the Black Dragon Emperor. The professor explained that anyone with dragon bloodline was naturally a subject of the Emperor. Whenever the Emperor roared, all dragons across the world would bow their heads toward his throne. Learning spirit language started with experiencing that dominance firsthand. It could cause confusion, even illusions, in humans with dragon blood. Professor Good played the recording and asked Mingfei what he saw. Mingfei, yawning a little, just replied, "I felt sleepy. Nothing else." The professor froze, stunned. A grade S bloodline, and still no reaction? How could this be? Without wasting a second, he sprinted to the library, dragging Professor Man into the mess too. In the ancient archives, they scoured the old records, and a chilling thought began to form. Mingfei might be on the Emperor's level, or perhaps he carried the blood of the White Dragon itself. Whatever the truth, it was dangerous. Professor Good decided they had to keep this secret, or Mingfei could end up trapped in some lab for the rest of his life. The next day, it was time for the exams for all new students. Mingfei, being a true Chad, simply copied Fingal's answers and somehow managed to pass. During the exam, he dozed off for 2 of the 3 hours and dreamt again. The same boy, Mingus, appeared, calling himself Mingfei's brother. That night, a bell tolled. Mingfei, half dreaming, met Mingus once more. Mingus told him it was the bell of death, meaning someone was about to die, and Mingfei would soon be pulled into serious trouble. But it could also be an opportunity. Mingus asked which powers does Mingfei wanted. Mingfei, remembering how Nano had somehow found him on the rooftop during the previous battle, requested a world map ability, one that let him track everything. Mingus granted it with a smirk. The next moment, Mingfei woke up for real. Fingal shook him awake, shouting, "Emergency alarm, bro." All the students were quickly gathered. Professors explained that during a mission, they'd stumbled upon the Bronze Dragon King's palace, but 2 members were now trapped inside. The palace constantly shifted, making it almost impossible to escape. The professors showed them photographs of ancient dragon riding codes they had found inside and tasked the students to decode the clues and find an escape route fast. Only 20 minutes remained and the world's top minds were already trying. Mingfei watched everyone working with fierce determination and felt utterly useless, until he remembered his newly acquired open map power. He activated it, located a path out of the maze-like palace, and submitted the route. It worked. The escape route reached the trapped agents. But there was another problem: their oxygen was running low. Those trapped agents were the same people who had once interviewed Mingfei for the college, and they were lovers too. They fought desperately to deliver a vital artifact they'd secured, a mysterious core, but their path was blocked by the retainer of the Dragon King, a terrifying sea dragon. The sea dragon slaughtered them, but not before they managed to send the core back to the airship. Now, the sea dragon started chasing the airship, furious to reclaim the artifact. Mance, enraged by the death of his comrades, faced off against the dragon. A deadly, high-speed chase followed, the airship barely surviving repeated attacks. Even Mance's secretary was killed by the dragon. Mance, wild with grief, emptied his machine guns at the beast, but it wasn't enough. The airship itself began losing power. Just when all seemed lost, Mance realized that they had reached the dam. He ordered the ship toward the dam gates, hoping to lure the sea dragon in and crush it between the barriers. The plan worked, but not before the dragon sank a fong deep into Mance's stomach. Later, the principal officially announced that the mission had been a success. They'd recovered priceless dragon codes and a rare artifact. However, the morning bell tolled softly in the background, signaling the loss of several brave souls. As they exited the Grand Hall, Jiang personally thanked Mingfei for his help and invited him to join the Lionheart Society as his successor. Mingfei politely declined, saying he wasn't suited for such a big role. Meanwhile, back on the airship, the principal visited his dying friend, giving him the final mission report. He promised to shield the students from the truth of their losses and only focus on preparing them for the future. The principal also vowed to protect Mance's adopted daughter, Nano. A few days later, Mingfei received an unexpected online invitation from Student Union for a ball dance, hosted by the Student Union. Fingal casually dropped a bombshell that Caesar, the Student Union leader, was the heir to the prestigious Western Gotza family. He was arrogant as hell and was clearly trying to recruit Mingfei too, just like Jiang. Mingfei wasn't interested, but Fingal tempted him. "Bro, there's free food and drinks." That night at the ballroom, they found out that Nano was actually Caesar's fiancée and the whole party was a grand birthday celebration for her. Everyone started dancing and Fingal dragged Mingfei onto the floor, knowing full well he wouldn't score a dance partner otherwise. But then fate twisted. The golden-haired girl, the one Mingfei kept noticing, walked up to him and asked him for a dance. Their chemistry on the dance floor was electric, and by the end, the whole hall burst into applause. After the performance, Caesar formally invited Mingfei to stand beside him, an offer full of hidden expectations. Mingfei, being cool casually, asked for time to think about it. Then he slipped away, searching for Nano, who had earlier gone outside for some fresh air. Subscribe for part 2, and as soon as this video get 200 likes, I'll drop part 2.